If I could only read your mind with superhuman power, life would be a breeze sometimes. The good stuff's in between the lines, my thoughts and my feelings still tell 1,000 lies. But now you're taking away my sorrow, you're taking away my fear. We're not promised tomorrow, so let me hold you close, my dear. Nothing's gonna bring me down, no thinking about the past while we're building for tomorrow. Nothing's gonna bring me down.
Hello and welcome to episode 24 of Good Stuff In Between with me, Shaun Milne, the podcast that goes behind the scenes of the music industry, seeking out stories and advice from those who are making it all happen on a day-to-day basis to try and support those who are just starting out on their own journeys. Today I'm joined by someone who isn't just a musician and genius producer, but somebody who's changing the face of music and opportunity as the co-founder and front person of Face West, as founder of We Studio and We Studio Records. So it's my absolute and utter pleasure, after many months of trying to get a date for each other to do this, to welcome Keith Morrison. How are you?
I'm really good. How are you, Shaun?
It's lovely to see you actually in the studio today, as opposed to wandering about the globe or attending some kind of gig doing the sound there. What has life been like? It looks like it's frantic.
It's been ramping up. It's been more and more chaos. And yeah, just trying my hardest to keep everything growing and to keep everyone happy that we're working with. But yeah, it's a lot of hours and a lot of work. But yeah, there's no place like home. It's nice to be back in the studio today.
Well, I can see the studio behind you there. I can see equipment. I can see, things that dampen down the sound. It's all good spick and span, as anyone who follows your videos will know. Music, what does it mean to you?
Yeah, well, I think music was the first thing I really cared about when I was young. I think when you're a youngster, you're just floating through life. And I think, my parents were musicians, so there was instruments all around the house. So it was a common language for me to pick up an instrument and be brave in it. My friends were also musicians as well. So yeah, it's just a really good musical upbringing. And that allowed me to have drive, to have ambition. It gave me confidence to speak to people at a young age, which I think has continued. I think most importantly, it allowed me to kind of connect with myself and understand who I am. And it allowed me to express myself, especially as a teenager in a rural community like the Isle of Lewis. It's hard to connect or be real or be you. So I just found that music was my way to, it was my therapy, it was my expression, it was my creativity. Yeah, I just found a lot of happiness and pride and work ethic there.
How would you describe who you are then?
I don't know. Keith does everything he can to avoid boring work, I think is the best way to put it. However, I do run a business, so there's lots of boring day-to-day work involved in it. But this whole career, this whole path of my life was to have an excuse to have good crack with my friends for the rest of my life. So you get wee snippets of it when you're growing. It might be at rehearsals, it might be at someone's house jamming late at night, it might be little pub gigs here and there that you have the best time. So yeah, I just fell in love with that. So Keith is the person that avoids being bored and chases the wholesome good times, I think.
So this year you'll be appearing at HebCelt again, but with Alasdair White on the Friday?
Correct.
I hadn't realised you guys, your friendship stretches all the way back to primary school.
Yeah. So yeah, Alasdair's probably, well, he's my best friend. He was the best man at my wedding, and I think we're actually related, Stornoway relations, Lewis relations. I don't know what cousins we are, but there's a connection there. But yeah, we just found each other. I think we both moved to the same primary school in P6 at the same time. So we were both the new kids, and we started playing music very soon after that. In fact, Alasdair and myself were two of the founding members of the band Face the West. But our music predates that. Even my recording predates that. My father had a small recording setup in the house, which I kind of took over week by week. And there's that old 8-track cassette tape machine Tascam out the back there, which we used to record on, where started to learn how to do this. So myself and Alasdair have been playing a long, long time. We understand how each other play. We got really, really good together just by mucking around together every single minute we had, every weekend, every Thursday night at a accordion and flute club. Any chance we got, we would sit down and play music together. So just gave us a lot of time to get really confident with our instruments and to get really good. So Alasdair lives in Manhattan now, so we really treasure the moments and the times we have together, especially when we get a chance to play music. There's never a time when he comes home to visit his parents where I don't rush round to their house and kidnap him into the car to come up to the studio and do some recording for one thing or another, or just to spend time together doing what we love. So yeah, it's so nice to play with Alasdair at HebCelt. We were the ones that would go to HebCelt together, and we would be at the front together at an early age once our parents let us be alone. So to come full circle like this and play just the two of us, piano and fiddle, like how it began, is it's really nice.
You must both be exceptionally proud of what each of you have achieved in your own rights.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. We're both so busy, but there is moments where it's surreal. I've been lucky enough to do a few tours with bands in America. The latest one was in Heron Valley, and at the same time, Alasdair was touring with Dive, and we ended up playing a lot of the same festivals together. So we bumped into each other 2 or 3 times. After the festivals, we'd hang out together. I even ended up filming a video for Dive around some train tracks for the crack. We got Mexican for breakfast, things like that. So to be in places of extreme beauty, like the Midwest of America, Utah and Colorado and places like that. 2 island boys that grew up in villages next to each other, and we're lucky enough to be seeing these things, meeting incredible people. And yeah, that just didn't seem an achievable goal when we were young. So yeah, hopefully if the teenage version of Alasdair and myself saw us as middle-aged men, they wouldn't be too disappointed.
I think there was a quite beautiful sort of contrast on your Instagram and Facebook and all these other places that you post a sunset just out the door, front door of the studio, and there's an amazing, sun just glowing there in the distance. And then you're over in Vegas looking out your hotel window, and there's another sunscape going on there.
Yeah.
And I thought that contrast across the Atlantic was very, very stark, but very, very refreshing as well.
Yeah, I pinched myself a lot. I remember the first time I got to the Pacific Ocean. I think it was, we were driving across the States. This is before COVID. And we ended up in Santa Cruz. And the first thing I did was just take my shoes and socks off and just walk straight into the ocean and stood there. I went, "Oh, hello, Pacific Ocean. Nice to meet you." And so yeah, there's moments. I'm a really emotional, kind of present, connected person. I love peace and quiet and soaking in atmospheres and vibes. And yeah, I understand the magnitude of what we're doing, and I do my best to warrant it, to accept it and make the most of it all the time. But yeah, it was kind of interesting. It was a sunset out of the studio here. We're so lucky. The studio is pointing straight out that direction. So in the winter it's setting over there, in the summer it's setting over there, and we see it going across. We've got windows all the way across the studio, and we see the sun setting. Well, obviously when it's not grey like today, we see the sun setting all the way across the studio and then all the way back in the autumn to see the sun setting here. And it was the sun rising in Vegas, coming up and reflecting off all these glass buildings. Yeah, just different chapters of my crazy life. Yeah, I'm very fortunate.
Is it going to make Alistair's sort of homecoming and your gig at HebCelt perhaps that little bit sweeter as well, as the fact that you're both back where it all began?
Yeah, of course, it always is. And HebCelt was huge for us. In fact, I think that there was a moment where myself and Alasdair were watching Martin Bennett. I can't remember what year it was. We must have been 15 or 16 years old, maybe even younger, maybe 14 or 15. And I remember we were at the front, and it was the first time we were allowed, well, I was allowed to be cutting about HebCelt, semi-unattended. I'm sure there was lots of my elders floating around. But we were up at the front. I think it was the first time I felt real bass. That was the first time I said, this is what I want to do with my life. This is, if I don't get up on that stage at some point in my life, I failed. That's my goal. And so it was that particular stage. It was actually, I think we ended up doing that a few years later with Face the West. And I was like, right, I'm done. That's all I needed. Anything else is a bonus now. So yeah, it's lovely. And the type of concert, the type of gig that we're doing with HebCelt as well, it's very wholesome and very, it's not really a prescribed show that a lot of bands need to do, where it's, oh, you go see them here, it's different here, different there. Myself and Alasdair will sit down and we'll brainstorm and we'll decide what to do. And something will pop into our heads. Like Alasdair might go, oh, do you remember that set of tunes we played when we were 19 years old? And it was down at the Sea Angling Club for something. And we'll phone my father and go, what's the name of that tune that goes like this? And we'll find it and bring it out of the archives and make it really mean something. And a lot of these tunes and things we decide to do are things from our past, or are things that were created here or created by people from here. So yeah, that's nice.
One of the things people often tell me is that HebCelt has either provided them with the opportunity needed to make that next step up in their career, or was always something of an inspiration, as you say there, I want to play on the stage. Just a couple of podcasts ago, we were speaking with Daniel Gillespie from Scaryvore, and he was talking about how he was, sitting in the square and you could hear the music and thinking, oh, I hope one day we could do there. You've got Elias Alexander, who has been sort of volunteering for years and now is going to get the opportunity to take part in that. And obviously you guys come back there, but as fantastic as that is as a festival and the importance of that, I wonder if perhaps you are starting to earn that place as well with Wee Studio in terms of your approach, the way you're helping facilitate recording and lending that guiding hand for people to then make the step up, or even the first chances to get music out there and the kind of music that might appear not just at HebCelt but around the world.
Yeah, exactly that. My whole ethos for this business has been, what did I need when I was growing? And any market that needed filled, any problem that needed a solution while I was developing my career is exactly what I try and figure out. So there's a lot of people who are exceptional musicians and can't afford the first steps into this industry, especially these days, where there's a lot less live music, there's a lot less income in every area. So I've had to step up and create a record label, which allows me, if I've got some extra profit that we can reinvest, I find exceptional talent and I basically pay for their recording for them. And we make a deal where hopefully they pay off those debts and they make even more money, and then we share the money after that, which gets a wee bit of passive income for the future for us, hopefully, if things go well. But it's getting trickier and trickier. The value of money's going down, but the amount you're getting for streaming is staying the same. So it was peanuts before, but it's even less now. So yeah, I've got to keep that in mind and do my best to nurture this industry. Because if there's not musicians creating amazing things, then I don't have a job. There's no reason for this place to exist. And that's why I do this. As there's always a threshold in a business, in a creative business, where people's the wages need paid, the bills need paid. You need some room for growth to continue. And once you pass that threshold, it's okay. How do we do our bit for everybody else? And that's the ethos of this. And HebCelt is very much the same. It's run pretty much by volunteers, and they've always grown to give people opportunities. If you look at any lineup over the last 20 years, there's always been really good spaces for up and coming. First time we played it, it was a lot trickier to get on the stage because there was only one stage, and it started on a Thursday night. So to get on that stage was a lot harder. And now they've expanded it to have 3 stages in the green, and you've also got the concert site in the country, you've got the family Kayleys, you've got Anlanther doing stuff later on. So it's so easy to get your foot in the door and make a start on creating a fan base with not just the locals in Stornoway. You've got people coming from all over the world. So it's a really good opportunity to allow up and coming people to find their feet, to grow, to gain a fan base, which is always the engine in getting enough income to carry on creating music, I suppose, and making beautiful things.
How proud are you of the people who come through your doors and you see what they're doing? Because your enthusiasm seems to shine through when they're releasing stuff.
Oh, it's the best part of the job. It's the best part of the job. So a lot of the time you're in here and you're doing tricky stuff and you're creating and you're solving problems and risking things. That's the hard part, but that's also the fun part because you're doing it with such fun, amazing, incredible, inspiring people. But once it's done, it's very much like, I mean, I've got two boys I love dearly, but it's very much having children in the studio. They all have their own decisions. They make their own mistakes. They surprise you in ways, and they do better than you think they will, or sometimes they make a mistake. But it all creates this thing you don't really have much control over, much like a child. And then you set that person or that band out into the world and go, okay, go make relationships, go make connections with people, go achieve things. And because we have so many people on the label now and I'm working so many hours, it's really hard for me to keep my finger on the pulse with what everybody's doing. So it works that we're a record label. We work intensely making that record or video or whatever they need, and giving them the product to go and achieve the other things. There's lots of times where something will pop up on social media and I'll have to give them a text going, I had no idea that was going to be happening. That's mental. That's crazy. And it's like free endorphins. They go away and do all the work, and it pops. The news pops over to you, and yeah, the pride you feel to have had a hand in that. It eclipses things that you achieve yourself, really, because every time you create something or deal with something on your own, whether it's creating a studio or releasing your own music, it's always tainted with pressure, or you always have doubts it could be better than it is. And you're always on a path. You're always trying to get further with the thing that you're doing yourself. People go, oh, I love that track that you took out 3 months ago. And you're like, well, yeah, but we did that 6 months ago. And I'm hoping this other stuff that we're doing is going to do well. So you're kind of pseudo pushing that, which your creations also feel like your children because they go have relationships with people you've never met. But a lot of the time, it feels better when you've helped people grow and they achieve things. It's untainted. You feel nothing but 100% proud of it.
If my research is right, I think the first release you did was with the Tumbling Souls.
Correct, yes.
We've also got great new stuff coming out. I've heard a couple of tracks recorded right there with you.
Yes.
And that sounds really exciting.
Well, the Tumbling Souls are like an island supergroup. They have some members coming in and going out depending on life circumstances. But I think there's a core few, but that is such an exciting project. They put so much hard work into it and create such amazing music. And it should never be allowed to be happening, because every single member of that band, past and present, has been incredibly busy. But everybody realizes in that project how important creating something really good is. So they find time, they make time in between work and having babies and dealing with other bands or projects to keep everything going. So it's an absolute pleasure to have them in every time they've come in. And it's a real team effort. Not only the members in the bands, but you've got there's lots of collaboration between myself and Black Bay Studio as well down the road. So we recorded the first album with them. I think we did bits and bobs of recording in my studio. Pete, my pal Pete, mixed it. I mastered it, and then even this album that they're working on, a few tracks were done down in Black Bay, and they're doing a few tracks up here. So it's a real communal effort. And I love any excuse to work hand in hand with Pete and Black Bay. It's really nice to have and to nurture the local music scene. And I think it comes from the top down. So if the people that own the businesses that are surviving are pals working together, then that travels down to the bands that have lots of members in. If they're all pals and working together, it's a wholesome scene that everybody will want to be involved with. There's no jealousy, there's no envy, there's no... and that can happen in bands where if you have a band member that's involved in lots of bands, sometimes it can be a bit cutthroat and why are you doing so much work with this band when you need to be doing this band? And up here in this music scene, there's absolutely none of that. Everybody's pals and everybody promotes everyone's work. So it's a nice, wholesome scene.
I actually took a drive out to Black Bay last summer when I was up just to go and have a look and just stand there looking out at the sort of bay. It was a gorgeous place as well. Sadly, there wasn't anyone in when I arrived because it was kind of early doors, but I'm hoping maybe one day we'll catch up with them too. Yeah. But it's great. It's that sense of collaboration, I think, just embodies the island spirit as well. And perhaps few bands more do that than Pete and Diesel also, who,
yes,
you're so heavily involved in, also doing the big tour and also a big arena event down in Glasgow not so very long ago too. That just looks like a real roller coaster. Early morning coffee's a go-go.
That is an adventure and a half. That is an adventure and a half. I first met Boydie when Face the West were playing, and he'd come and say hello. But really got to know him once myself and Jane, who's in Face the West. Jane McMillan, used to be Jane Hepburn. We used to do a lot of local town gigs to rehearse stuff or just kind of get experienced or pay our dues, I suppose. And Boydie would be a regular in the pub that we were playing at, or the pubs that we were playing at. Shocking, I know, but he was always there. And the amount of times he would be so enthusiastic about our music. And I remember he used to grab an old acoustic guitar and he would play us some songs whenever he could. And you might just be sitting on a window ledge while we're packing a van. And long before Pete and Diesel was made, Boydie used to come into the studio maybe a Saturday every couple of months to throw down some ideas, to kind of like, I suppose it was the precursor to Pete and Diesel. He was finding his feet, what would work, what wouldn't work. Innes is another founding member. Innes Scott in the accordion. He's another founding member of Face the West. So we go way back as well. We're like brothers. We're old friends. And Uli on the drums as well. I adore. He's the funniest, happiest person I've ever met. So it's an absolute adventure. And if a book ever comes out from any of those three, or myself, I highly recommend you get that one. Every single gig of every night is like a movie. It's like the chaos that happens, the things that go down. And Boydie and Innes seem to be quite okay and understand everything that's going on. Well, I think Innes understands what's going on, and he's always got a lot to do. And Boydie, I don't think, notices a difference between playing to 6 people in McNeil's or 6,000 people in an arena in Glasgow. He doesn't really notice a difference. He just goes up and does his thing. Uli absolutely can take everything in and overwhelms the wrong word, but he really appreciates the magnitude of it all. But the other two boys are just trying to do their best, I suppose, and don't really understand what's going on. But I'm at the back. It's different for me. They're at the front and there's bright lights on them. So they're only seeing a few rows of people before it descends into darkness. Well, I'm at the back. I'm seeing the whole audience every single time. And I'm like, what on earth is going on? And by the time they've come back on for their encore and they're doing the last songs, and I can't remember the last concert of theirs that's not been like face-meltingly chaotic at the end. Just absolute sweat boxes with people going absolutely mental. There's something like, it's vital. It goes through the audience, all this energy, and which is such a weird juxtaposition of the three boys sitting on stage not moving, radiating this kind of this vibrant energy through the crowd. Yeah, that's a real honor to do things like that. The hours are long, the traveling is long, and you sleep well when you get home. That is really hard work, those tours. And I think I have like 6 or 7 jobs while on tour. That is just assumed that Keith will do things, but I'm never going to complain about it. It's an absolute honor to be working on with these boys on their music.
How far do you think they can go?
I don't know. It's no secret. It's gone well beyond what we thought it might do. I didn't even think anyone further away from Inverness would understand any of the crack he's talking about. But people love it. They love it. We go really far away from home, and everyone's singing all these songs in there. And what I find interesting is that everyone sings those songs in their local accent. Whereas if you get historically, there might be a softer accent or kind of Americanized words for pop songs. And Boydie's just singing like how you would sing if you were from South Lochshire on the island. But once we get to Cambridge or Exeter, they're singing these songs in their own accent. So it's allowing people to be proud of where they're from, even if they're not from here. And I find that a magical thing. So who knows? I was with the band in Germany last year, and you were hearing people saying Pete and Diesel songs in German accents, singing about the Cabernet Hotel down the road. Like, what's going on? Singing about Aries. They don't have a clue what an Ari is, but they're singing away. So, yeah, I have no idea. We're just along for the ride like everybody else, I suppose.
One of the things that caught my eye was at Belladrum the other year, and I'll stand quite far back, looking down at the main stage, and you could just see this like bounce going up and down and up and down of folk just going absolutely nuts for it. And more recently, I sent away for a T-shirt for myself. I was like, I'll get a T-shirt, I'll be fine. But my 50-year-old snaffled it. I said, I'll have that. So it's this cross-generational appeal that they have as well. It's just astounding.
It's mad. I think there's, especially locally, there's been a wee bit of shame about your local culture, especially through my whole upbringing. I remember the first few gigs that Face the West did, we were a wee bit weird. And I remember people in pubs and clubs coming and thinking, like trying to talk to you, like saying, why are you playing accordions and fiddles when you're 15 years old? That's weird. It was really weird back in the day. And not many people would speak Gaelic, or if people had a Maw accent, so a really thick accent, they'd get made fun of. So I think over the generations, it's been taboo to express the things that make you, where you're from. And I think that's changed in the last 10 years. And a lot of the young musicians I work with particularly, they're learning Gaelic in school. They're learning traditional instruments and playing them in a traditional way, not like Face the West, trying to make them palatable for people who don't like traditional music. They're in the thick of it. And if you talk to them about it, it isn't something, they don't feel like they're rebelling against the other youngsters. They don't feel like they're going against the norm. They're just doing what they're doing. And it just seems like a normal thing to be connected to your culture. And then you've got the older generation who, I mean, that culture was kicked out of them. So they were told not to speak Gaelic in school. They were told if they didn't get an education and leave the island and become one with the city, that they wouldn't achieve things. So they see the Pete and Deedle music as kind of like music for the people and working class music, especially up here. It's kind of crofting culture and hard working of the land, and that's where that kind of language and accordions and music kind of like points towards. So I suppose that would be very common in lots of cultures up and down the land, whether it being a coal mining community or farming down in the southeast of England. Yeah.
Was that part of the influence and inspiration for Face the West, 25 years ago when your first album came out?
No, no. Well, my perception of it was so I learned the piano first, so I could have done anything. I'm good to go. I'm in every genre. The reason I was into doing music with accordions and fiddles is because my best friends played the accordion and the fiddle, and I was into modern music. I was into like dance music or rock music or pop music. And that's kind of where Face the West found its footing, to create modern backing with tunes. And we had influences like I said before, Martin Bennett or Wolfstone or Capercaillie, bands like that we thought we're doing that, and we wanted to be part of that scene. So no, I was kind of like lucked into it or forced into it at a young age. My best friend played the fiddle, so I couldn't really invite him to play Nirvana covers, for example. So yeah, we saw the tools we had and we ran with it, I suppose.
I was looking at Spotify. I mean, you're still getting tens of thousands of streams a year, which would be nice if it was album sales as opposed to streams, I guess. But
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, some of them like the HebCelt Bounce, like 1.3 million streams.
Yeah.
Cardiac Kelly's over a million. Is that something you ever envisioned? Did you ever imagine you'd be hitting those kind of numbers?
No. No, and I wish it did translate into monetary success, but it doesn't. But it's so lovely to be connected. As I said before, these pieces of music. I mean, we get amazing tunes and create pieces of music from it, and we send it on their way. And for people to be connecting with it is incredible. And it's just like any other relationship, that the thing you're terrified of the most is not to be cared. If you make something and put your heart into it and it falls into a void where people don't like it and don't hate it, it's nothing. And then that's the worst. Sometimes it's better if people hate your music than if they don't even notice it. I'd say most of the time, actually. So for people to be streaming it and liking it, and I'm sure most of those are my mother, but even then, that's lovely for things you've had a hand in creating to make people feel things, or to even warrant them going out their way to listen to it is really humbling, actually, because you always love what you're making. Otherwise, why would you make it? But yeah, that's proof that other people like it too, and it gives you drive to be working on more, to create more. We've got another track, the second track of our next album coming out. Where am I? The 27th of June. There's a wee exclusive for you. It's called A Harris Reel. So yeah, these numbers force you to do more when you might otherwise go, oh, I'll work on other people's music because it's doing better, or it means more to them, or they need more help. Sometimes when you get those numbers and you look at them, you feel a responsibility to do more, and to do more faster, and to do more gigs. So yeah, it's just a wee bit of nice feedback, a wee bit of belief, and proof that it's worth doing. So yeah, it's lovely.
I remember, yourself, you were also, I think, given the award for Live Band of the Year at Trad Awards one time, no?
We were nominated for it. I
Nominated.
think we were. This was a long, long time ago when we were young. I think it was one of the first Trad Awards. Really, we got pipped to the post by Lau, maybe. I can't remember. We went down and had a party anyway. To be invited down to the awards was the thing. We didn't care about the result of it.
But I'm wondering, with that kind of sort of recognition, for the live presence, for people who are streaming in huge numbers, new album hopefully around the corner.
Yeah.
It must never get tiring.
No. Yeah, it's amazing. I often joke that we play for free. It's the traveling and the setting up and tidying up and organizing everything is what we charge for. I'm sure most bands are the same. That hour or hour and a half you're on stage, and when you feel comfortable with your bandmates, and they're all holding their own and making you laugh with little extra things here or there, or there's no feeling like it. It's a lovely thing to be doing. It's exciting. It's crazy. Sometimes you're on the stage and you're hearing the sounds that are coming out of the collaboration of hard work from your bandmates or sitting in the studio creating it at the beginning, and to see it vibrating out is. I wish everyone could have a go at that. It's the best feeling.
Where, as part of the band, has been the one place that sticks in your head the most in terms of travel?
We were lucky enough. Jane in the band plays the fiddle. Her auntie and uncle used to live in Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. So we went over a few years in a row to go do some fundraising concerts with expats to help build toilets and things like that over in Vietnam. So yeah, that's the furthest we've been from home. And the music was just an excuse to go have a holiday with your friends. But that was probably the weirdest for us place we've ever been. But at the same time, once you kind of get used to it, a busy Ho Chi Minh City felt more like the Isle of Lewis than London does. Once you see even though it's really, really busy, the kind of way of life or the land around the place when you're traveling felt like home, but, a lot hotter.
So you'll be a little bit closer to home soon enough, though. You've got Eden Festival come up, Drums in the Field,
Yep.
EDF.
Yeah.
What can folk expect from you and the band when you're hitting the stage there again?
Yeah, so some old stuff, we some new stuff. We've got new music that we're making, so people will be able to hear that for the first time. We've got the old stuff that we created when we were 15 and 16 that we revisit just to how we nod to the people that have been following us for a long time, and everything in between. We've been playing quite a lot now over the last couple of years. We took a hiatus from 2013 to just before COVID there, but yeah, over the last couple of years, we've been hitting it hard and doing a lot of concerts. So yeah, hopefully a polished show. I'm not guaranteeing I won't fall over or something on stage, but it's all part of the crack. But it's an energetic show. I'm very much a hype man when we're playing. Yeah, bring your comfy shoes because you're gonna be jumping up and down a wee bit. I think is common for a Face the West gig, but yeah, everything's lively, everything's fun.
I've seen there's been loads more going on with the studio as well. It seems to be like equipment arriving every other week. I see you've been doing up another bedroom there as well, and probably very excitingly for you, you've got a new employee starting as well.
Yeah, I've got a new employee starting on the 23rd of June, so I'm not sure when that is, a couple of weeks. There's lots of services we want to be doing, and there's even more services that we used to do that we had to stop doing because there was not enough Keith to go around. I've got another incredible employee, Scott McLeod, who does probably the other half of the work here with me. He's my second in command. He's been working here a good few years now. He's an incredible musician. Scott C. Park, you should check him out too. He's just released an album and it's amazing. But even then, me and Scott have been maxed out for a long time, and I mean maxed out. So I was lucky enough to be able to be in a position to get a new employee. So we've not announced who that is yet or their skill set or anything like that, but it now allows us to have another body. So whether that's somebody that needs to go look after to do sound with another band from the label that's touring, or we could double shift here at the studio, or one person can be mixing in one of the other rooms in the studio while a band's in tracking the other album. So it just allows for a lot more expansion. We've been full throttle for a year or more now since I built this new studio. So yeah, onwards and upwards. We'll see what B Studio's like July onwards.
And given where you are, you must have been, so happy you had so many applications.
Yeah, how many did I have? Was it
Well,
155 applications? Was that right?
I have 155 written down here from,
155. Yes. So I was expecting maybe 8 because it was such a specific number. I'm very grateful that we got some financial assistance towards the new employee as long as we created a graduate placement. So it had to be somebody working in the field of sound that graduated within the last 4 years. So I was like, okay, that's a very specific number of things. Someone that is willing to move up to Lewis, or someone that already lives here that has a degree or a master's in the field of music is going to be thin on the ground. So I knew of a couple of people that I thought might be keen. So I knew we wouldn't be totally stuck. I knew it wouldn't be zero. But they just kept flooding in. They kept coming in and coming in and coming in. And worldwide as well. We had people from Canada, America, South Africa, India. We had people from everywhere. And most of these applications were legit. They were incredible. So it was such a tricky period of my life. I won't lie to you. I was like, what on earth is going on? How am I going to deal with all this? So I was actually away on tour in the States while it was coming in. And I made it long. I gave it like a month and a half between announcing the position and the deadline. And this whole time, I'm just looking at all these applicants coming in, listening to their music, reading their CVs really thoroughly, speaking to them, sometimes emailing them, messaging them to get clarification on things and check things out. So it was a really busy month and a half. And then when I came back from the States, I think it was the second day I was back, full of jet lag. I just sat down and slowly went through 100. It took me 2 days non-stop to get through 155 applications, and then another day and a half to reply to them all, because I've been on the receiving end as a youngster of no replies or a generic reply. And I thought, no, I'm not having any of that. So I sat down and I emailed every single one independently. Yeah, just to give them the respect they deserve for the hard work that they've put in. I wish I had 155 jobs to give away. Maybe one day there'll be some government legislation where we get a wee bit more per stream, where it'll allow us to flourish. But at the moment, there's only one at the moment. So yeah, I'm glad that's over, because that was heart-wrenching. It's really, really difficult to let people down, and to let 154 people down is it's even harder. And there's just some amazing people on that list that I would have wanted to work with. But yeah, there's only one space.
Does it also inspire you that this journey, this dream that you've created, can continue and perhaps get bigger and bigger?
Yeah, it was a dream. And I think I remember starting this business. I started in 2008, the beginning of 2008. And it was in my parents' house. And I think my oldest sister had just moved out. So I threw her bed out the door and turned her bedroom into a little studio. And I think my other sister or brother moved out. So I got a screwdriver and I smashed a hole through the plasterboard to the next room and started putting cables through it to make a recording room, a drum room. My parents were very understanding. And I thought that would be it. My idea was, I'll make this a kind of side project. I'll try and make it full time, but no one's really achieved that for long. And even if I don't achieve it for long, I thought I can make some cool stuff until I figured out where I am. And I had an incredible job before I started that. I was an IT technician in the local college for a few years, and I loved working there. I loved everyone I worked with, and it was a really, really difficult job to give up. But yeah, one thing led to another, and I got busier and busier. I ran out of holidays for touring, and if I finished work at 5 or 6, there was only 3 or 4 hours of recording time a day, which got maxed out, and I was keeping my poor parents up from their bed. That's when I decided. I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a leap. So that was how many years ago now? 17 17 years ago. So yeah, still getting away with it. So that's the dream, really.
There's a lovely shot from your feed as well. I think it's your mum's Stratocaster.
Oh yeah, it's back there. Yeah, the Japanese Strat. Yeah.
And I
Oh
love
no, it was a telly. It was a telly. It wasn't a Strat.
Telecaster. And I love seeing all these mixture of new and old as well. And I wonder if that's a deliberate part of the sound that you're creating.
Yeah, exactly. It's a hybrid studio in all forms. So you have old instruments, you have new instruments, you have new instruments that are pretending to be old instruments. And the studio is built so you can get the sound and imperfections of the old stuff. That is true and tried and tested, and any of the faults they have are musically appealing to humans. So we've got a lot of stuff like that, and then it feeds into more modern equipment. And the idea of it is that we can be time conscious. So if somebody's paying for studio for a day and they're up against it money wise and time wise, we're not wasting time doing steps that take a lot longer for a little bit of improvement. So we look at things. For example, we've got a massive analog Midas heritage mixing desk here that we put everything through. That doesn't take any time away from mixing or recording or mastering or anything like that. It's just going through the desk and we color it. We get the EQs and the tones that we want. And we've got outboard here that we can do the same, but we don't have a tape machine, for example. So we don't have to sit and listen and we don't have to wait for a whole song for it to be printed. We're on Pro Tools. We've got computers here, so it takes 3 seconds to export something and make a change. So just over the years, I've been conscious of making these kinds of decisions, just putting my feet in the shoes of a recording artist, and just trying to decide things like, is it better to put a tape emulation sound plugin on the project rather than actually get an expensive tape machine that is going to take a lot of time to maintain and just takes time in real time to print things onto it. So yeah, a hybrid studio, which I think they're getting much more popular. So you can have the best of both worlds, really.
Okay, well, you mentioned time there, and I'm conscious of yours, so we'll go into the quick questions just now to finish off. But just before we do, talk us through the roster of artists that you have. I mean, what's coming around the track that we should be looking out for?
What's coming out? Okay, there was a duo, but now there's a 3-piece called Carnan. So there's Kenneth on the whistles. They've got Loudon on the box, and he is an incredible box player. There's like colors of Sandy Brichin, and really modern, really, really cool guy. And then you've got Arthur, who just became a doctor a few weeks ago. So that's a really exciting 3-piece. They've got a track coming out on the 20th called Albanova, and it's wacky and exciting and loads of like reverb things and everything. So yeah, a lot of heart and soul put into that. Then we've got the Face the West track on June the 27th, which I believe the week after. And then the week after that, we've got the new Tumbling Souls track, which is called 1995, which is Willie the Singer and my heyday. We remember the 90s really well. So it's a hark back to the feelings and things you got into there. So it's a new Tumbling Souls sound as well. If you're used to the old Tumbling Souls, it's kind of Americana and country and kind of folky. This one's got a bit more venom into it. You have to check it out. Then we've got an album. This is a really exciting one. We've not done much promo on this one yet, but it's going to absolutely blow up. It's an artist that we've been working with since we were in the old studio called Hammy Ski, and he is a Gaelic rap artist. So it's Gaelic hip hop, and he is rapping about being down at the sea angling and then going out for dinner with the boys in Pete and Diesel and all of his adventures. So that's one to look out for. That album's coming out on July the 11th. And then on July the 18th, one of my best friends, his name is Ian Shoughton. He's got a project, and he's been working on his album over the last few years. It's an absolute masterpiece, and he recorded most of it on his own while studying to be a sound engineer himself. So hopefully we've inspired him in some way. So that album's all finished. I've not announced the name of his project yet or the name of the album, but that one's coming out on July the 18th. So yeah, check us out. Stay on our socials and yeah, be a good audience, and we will let you know the details of that very shortly.
Busy, busy, busy. And you mentioned Scott C. Park earlier on there as well. Can
Yes.
thoroughly endorse going to see him if you get a chance.
Oh, he's yeah. Scott. One time, Scott was playing, and there was a part of a song that I wasn't even playing at, and he was dancing on the stage so hard, he jumped off the stage and tore his Achilles, and he was out of action for. I think he was meant to be out of action for like 3 months, but I think he turned it into 6 because he was enjoying it. But if you saw him, I think he played HebCelt last year with his foot in a cast, if I believe. So the guy, I've never seen him do less than 1,000% at a gig. He is bouncing off the wall. So Scott C. Park, check out his new album and yeah, go see him live. He's down in Glasgow quite a lot doing venues and stuff. So yeah, easy to find him.
Okay, you've touched on this a little bit already, but what was the music of your youth and do you still carry it with you?
Yeah, I firmly believe that you don't really like any music past your 16th birthday. Something about your first love. So I'm going to say local Highland legends, Wolfstone, Martin Bennett, Sandy Brachan, who I mentioned just very shortly, a short while ago. Radiohead for my kind of out there vibe, fancy chord inspirations in my youth. Coldplay, I've always loved. Nickelback are my guilty pleasure, especially for the production values. And yeah, I think they were my main pillars growing up, I reckon.
Okay, the last song or podcast you listened to?
Last song I listened to, apart from the ones I've been listening to all morning that I'm working on, I have been listening a lot to The War on Drugs. There's something about these guitar chords rolling around that is really attractive to me right now. Don't ask me to name a song because I don't have a clue what any of the songs are called, because I just tell my phone to play them while I'm driving and they just roll around. So yeah, one of the War of Drugs ones. There you go.
Exclusive album launch or festival?
I'm going to say I would prefer working at an album launch because you get to spend the whole day there in peace and quiet with people you love. And I would much prefer going to a festival, grabbing some food, floating around and being surrounded by lots of different acts. Yeah, just getting involved with it.
Favorite food or rider?
My favorite food, a lot of the time we don't get to eat until really late, especially if I'm doing sound for a support act and then a main act, or if I'm playing, or yeah, a lot of the time you don't really get free until everything's closed. So my favorite food, I'm going to give you 2 answers, so it's a bit of a cheat. My favorite food on tour is like spicy chicken, so like peri peri chicken, but not like bits of chicken. Like I want the actual thing, like, so I know it's an actual thing that's been not processed. This used to be a bird. I'll go for that because it feels kind of like the most real food, and I like it to be dangerously hot. So I'm panicking, mild state of panic while eating it. That's what I like. But my favorite food of all time is Mexican chicken enchiladas.
If you could collaborate with anyone from now or history of a project, who would it be and why?
Martin Bennett. Martin Bennett. I feel that he was a genius, and a genius that we were lucky enough to have in our music industry. I never got to meet him before he sadly passed away, but there's not a person that did meet him that wouldn't say anything but incredible things about him. And if you read books about him or see interviews on telly with him, he's nothing but inspiring. His eyes are wide and the world just seems like a magical place to him. So to have done anything with Martin would have been amazing.
Okay, restaurant, cinema, or lazy Sunday brunch?
Cinema.
Digital addict or can you switch off?
Digital addict.
What does life look like after you stop?
What do you mean stop? What is stop?
Deliberately ambiguous.
Yeah, there is no stop. I only stop at junction.
Cracker. One artist everyone should be listening to right now.
Rumac. Rumac from Ullapool recently on Britain's Got Talent, and I'm glad he didn't swear. If you can get a hold of Rumac, if you can get to a Rumac gig, that is. I have no idea how he can do what he can do, and he's an incredible singer, incredible performer. Even if you find him in a corner of a pub, he's going to be absolutely just tearing the place up. So yeah, if you can see Rumac from Ullapool anywhere, that's what I would recommend.
What's the best piece of advice or helping hand you've been given or would offer to others?
I have so many. Be kind. Be kind. Didn't be a dick, I think, is what a friend of mine from Glasgow, well, from Glencoe told me once. That's all. That's it. That's all you need to do. And everything, doors open. People want to work with you. You achieve things. You learn things. If you're kind and happy to be there, and don't speak badly of others as much as you can. Just continue to be kind.
And finally, from where you started till now, what's been the good stuff in between?
Yeah, I'm glad I don't have to do a proper job, and I've not for a long time. Here you go. There's a massive difference between hard work and bad work. You can do bad work and not work hard, and it feels awful. And you can work every hour of every day of your waking existence, and if it's good work, if it's something you love, it doesn't feel like it. So find the good work that's hard work.
Keith Morrison, We Studio, Face the West, best pals in HebCelt. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
I know now how I went so wrong. I disconnected from the power, forgot to switch myself back on. The good stuff's in between the lines.
That's all for another episode of the Good Stuff in Between podcast, written, edited and produced by myself, Shaun Milne, in association with Scoog Media Associates and the HebCelt Festival. Our theme music is Nothing's Going to Bring Me Down by Willie Campbell. You can discover more of Willie's work at williecampbell.co.uk and, of course, the Tumbling Souls. A huge thanks indeed to Keith Morrison from We Studio and We Studio Records, Face the West, and of course there with Alasdair White at the HebCelt Festival later this year. If you get a chance, if you're out to make music, then do check them out. They do residential stays, they do mixing, they do remote, they do pretty much everything. It's an amazing resource for us to have, and I'm very privileged to have had them on the show today. Remember, you can follow me on social media at the usual places, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook and what have you. In the meantime, please do bookmark the show wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.